Let me tell you a story. A couple nights ago, I had an experience in which I had come home from, I don't know if I was hanging out with friends or if I was what I was doing, right? But I came home and I just felt somewhat empty, right? Which this is a pattern throughout your life, especially when you're so focused on building a better life, that you kind of don't feel like you're doing enough sometimes. And I came home and I was feeling kind of like weird. I was feeling like kind of almost a sad feeling. It's not quite sad. I wasn't quite depressed. I wasn't quite happy though at the same time. I guess the closest way to kind of describe it was a feeling of uncertainty, you could say. Feeling of, am I doing enough? What do I need to be doing? And deep down in my mind, I did know what I needed to be doing, what I needed to be focusing on. I started pondering on like every single thing, every avenue of life that I've been through, every way that I've conquered certain feelings, or every way that I've conquered certain trials, or even addictions for that matter. And I couldn't find anything in my mind. It was just absolutely empty. And in some ways that was kind of disturbing. I was like, well, crap, like this is something I don't know what I'm feeling. And so what I do when I feel this way is I start writing. I write in a book, I grab whatever piece of paper I can. And I think I wrote like 6 pages all throughout this book of just all these different things, how I was feeling, why I might be feeling that way. I found that the only solution to my problems, as it just submerged out of my mind, it was already there. The only solution was to pray. And this wasn't a typical prayer that I offered. It wasn't a prayer where you're just kind of nonchalantly saying it, just kind of saying it just to get something off your chest. It was a kind of prayer where your knees meet the ground, your head is bowed humbly, your manner of speech is conducted rather, I guess, respectfully, right? Suddenly, everything started coming to my mind, questions that I had, feelings of what I needed to do. I remember asking a very specific question, but after that prayer, I got back up and I started writing down my thoughts, my impressions, my feelings. And what was surprising to me was that I really didn't have an answer to what that question was. I didn't have a solution for the issue I was in the same sense that I would have expected. I did have a solution though, and that was to fully rely and trust in God. You see, in today's day and age, what we are used to is not at all what people in the past are used to. We hear all these stories from our ancestors, receiving inspiration or answers from their prayers. Now, what was the difference? Why is it that we don't receive those answers when we need them, where they were able to find them so simply? And I think it comes down to one simple thing. In today's society, in today's culture, we are used to instants. And what I mean by that is I can order a meal from Taco Bell and it will be delivered to me within the very hour. I suddenly have my Crunchwrap Supreme. I've got my chicken Chipotle melt. I've got all these different foods. I've even got a Baja Blast on top of that, super unhealthy meal. And just like that, it was brought straight to my house. I didn't have to even lift a finger, right? I just had to click a couple buttons, right? So I kind of had to lift a finger, right? But whatever, okay? Give me some, cut me some slack. Now let's look at the other hand, where we are used to a matter of instance. People back in the day were used to a matter of months, a matter of a season, a matter of a year. There was no such thing as instance. There's no such thing as right here, right now, materially, right? Because you see, when they wanted a loaf of bread back then, they had to plow the fields, plant the seeds, nourish them, hope and pray that locusts don't come through and destroy their crops, hoping that they would have good rain sufficient enough for their crops, hoping that everything would go well so that by that next season, not only would they have bread on their table, but they would have enough grain to sell to other nearby towns and families, so that they could now afford things like clothes for their children, very simple things, or like a repair for their wagon, or maybe some new tools so that they can efficiently prepare their crops for the following year. Now, that takes a matter of months, but we are used to same-day shipping And at the very latest, I'll just get it next week on a Tuesday, right? So when you take those things, you kind of compare and contrast how we live compared to them. Suddenly, the idea of prayer kind of makes a little bit more sense. You don't just pray, because the way we think about prayer is somewhat more like a vending machine than planting your crops, preparing the fields, and waiting. For us, we just insert the prayer, and the blessing comes right out a second later. Sometimes you got to give the vending machine a couple punches, but nonetheless, you still get it in a couple of minutes. Sometimes at the expense of maybe getting in a little bit of trouble, right? That's not how prayers are. Men and women watching this video today, don't treat your prayers like it's a vending machine, a spiritual vending machine, because it's not. Our prayers are more like planting the seed, nourishing them, not forgetting about it. Sometimes we just pray, have a question in mind, and then the next morning we've completely forgotten about it. We've gone about our lives, and we're already distracted by the simple things like video games and social media. But you have to nourish that prayer. You have to nourish the question in your mind, and you have to really work for it, water it, prepare it. Not to mention when God gives us the answer, when those plants finally start to sprout and grow, and once they're fully ready and ripe, we can't just let them sit there. We have to actively pursue them and harvest the crop. What good is a prayer if you don't even pick it up, right? If you don't even... What good is a prayer if you stick the money in the vending machine and you don't even grab the food that came down from the bottom, right? If it did run like if it was like a vending machine. That's the secret behind prayer that we are completely lost and a little bit blind to. Things take time. Things take time, and if you don't have patience, then you won't receive the answers that you need. Over the next couple of nights, I asked the same questions. I pondered them in my heart during the day. I thought about it every time I entered into my bedroom. In between my sets of push-ups in my room, I would bow down to pray, and I would ask God the same question. And even when I felt like I had an answer, maybe, just maybe, in the back of my mind, I would ask again, and I would try and confirm those questions, those answers, to see if it was just me or if it was God. Because quite frankly, I don't feel like I'm close enough to the Spirit to be able to decipher what it tells me all the time. But I want to know, and I think that's good enough. After days and days passed of me doing this, after, maybe a week or two, I think I received one of the most simple yet profound answers. For a question so simple, I got an astounding yes. What was the question that I was asking? It was a question I wasn't sure I had an answer for, say, about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And that question was, very simply, am I forgiven for my trespasses against God? Because I wasn't the best person. I didn't make the smartest decisions. I followed along with some of the wrong crowds. And I ponder on those things every single day, and sometimes in guilt, sometimes in shame. In days where I'm not as close with God or the Spirit, sometimes in pride, I ponder on those things. But then again, at the end of the day, when I finish and I pray and I bow my head before God, I'm reminded that Christ still died for my sins, and He died for your guys's too. Don't get lost or hung up on those simple, small things. It's very small in the grand scheme of things. And I can't tell you guys how much this answer to this question has helped me. Suddenly it's just clicked in my mind that now I can actually progress. There's really a wall in self-progression when we don't consult with the Lord and ask for His forgiveness for our past transgressions. We can't really become the true and better forms of ourselves. And believe me, just because you aren't participating in those same behaviors, and it's been years since you have, doesn't mean that those things aren't still with you. it doesn't mean that you've moved past them yet. My only invitation for all of you people today watching my channel is to simply bow down before God, have a prayer in mind, nourish it, ponder it, seek after it, write about it in your journal. If progression's going to take our whole life, what's 2 weeks of prayer? So I hope you guys accept this invitation, become better people. That's what this whole channel is about. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. I've become so passionate about it because my life's changed so much in the year that I've been doing this. Actually the 4 years that I've been doing this. I went on a mission seeking God to become a better person spiritually. Came home and I was working on the physical side of things, and I'm still not big yet. But then it became the mental side of things. Being strong in the mind. And to be strong in the mind means that you have to be strong in the spirit. And here I am today, and I'm so glad and excited of all the things I've been able to accomplish, even though some of those things are still small and not really where I want to be quite yet. But we're all on the same path. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, that you guys took it to heart, and that after this video, you guys walk out, you close this video, and you have a greater inspiration and desire to become a better person, because it really does offer you more than you can ever expect and plan for. A true and honest and earnest prayer, it'll make you a better person. And this I just leave with you guys. I have nothing else to say. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, by the way, guys. I'm serious. I've got more videos just like it. I'll make some just for you. If you guys have any questions, I will. I'm serious.